What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. How do you fix it? Now, in today's video, I want to cover something that happens to a lot of people. I already discussed it on the previous video, and that is getting locked out of your device because of a forgotten passcode. Now, when this happens, a lot of people think that you can just go somewhere or call someone and get it fixed. You can't. You can call Apple support, they can show you what to do, where to go, but you do have to restore the device, aka erasing it to factory settings. So, this is what happens. You put in a passcode, you forget it, you put it in too many times, somebody else tries to get access to your device, and after 10 attempts, it gets locked out for good. So that means it gets disabled. You won't be able to get back into the phone or iPad or iPod Touch unless you actually remove that passcode. Now, this is how it looks like. I have an iPod Touch here. As you can see, it says iPod is disabled. And that's what you're going to see on every single device. Whether it is an iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, you will see that message about the device being disabled, and it will say connect to iTunes. Why does it say that? Again, because the only possible way to fix it is by erasing it using a computer running iTunes. Now, a couple of quick things that you need for this process is, first of all, you need the device's USB cable, the USB to Lightning adapter, so make sure you have that with you. It's the same one you use for charging. A lot of people get confused with that, so the same one that you have to charge your device, that's the one you want to use on your computer. Second, you do need an actual Mac or PC, so it can't be a Chromebook or a tablet. It has to be a laptop or desktop running Mac OS or Windows, and it needs to have the latest version of iTunes. Number 3, you will need your Apple ID password. I will show you why in a little bit. So, without having to go into too much detail, basically, you will get locked out of the device in a second way, which is activation lock. There are ways of going around it. Most people actually know their Apple ID password or their iCloud password. It's the same thing. So that's fine. I'll cover that later on another video. But as for today, for this specific process, you do need to have your Apple ID password handy so you can actually get into the device and set it up again. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the process started, and I'll show you exactly what we need to go, where we need to go, and what we need to do to get this fixed. Alright guys, so the very first thing that we need to do, like I mentioned before, is have your device, have your computer, and actually connect it to the computer. Now, when you do this, you will see that the device will actually be recognized. It's charging, it's showing up on the computer, it's actually coming up in iTunes. Now, since it's already locked, you won't be able to use it or make it communicate with the computer without having that passcode, which is exactly what we need to get rid of. So to fix that, and this is where a lot of people actually get stuck, we need to use something called recovery mode, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So first, this is an iPod Touch. It's a 5th generation, so it has a home button, and it's kind of old. It's about 3-4 years old. With these, it's really easy to get into recovery mode. Same thing goes for iPhones up to the iPhone 6s Plus or the 6s, it's the same generation. So the process is going to be exactly the same for all of those devices and for every single iPad except for the 2018 iPad Pro. All iPads, all iPod Touches, and all iPhones up to the 6s have the same process. So to get into recovery mode, first you need to have it plugged into your computer. Second, you actually have to force restart it. To do that on these devices, you do have to press the home button and the sleep wake button, or power button as most people call it, and you need to hold them down for about 15 seconds or so. So we keep holding, it restarts, keep holding some more. You will see the Apple logo. You don't let go of the buttons, you just keep holding them. And that's what we need. The iTunes logo and the USB cable. This is known as recovery mode. So this is what we need for iTunes to actually see the device and be able to remove that passcode for us. Basically, it forces the computer to see it and erase the device. Now, I mentioned that this process is set up this way for that kind of device. For any other devices, iPhone 7, there's a specific process. iPhone 8, there's another specific process. And for all the variations of the iPhone 10, so 10, 10s, 10s Max, 10s, all of those, 10R, you do have to follow kind of a different process, a little bit more complex, but I'll drop a link in the description with the process, with the steps on how to do that. Same thing with the iPad Pro 2018. There is a specific process that you have to follow, but in the end, the overall, the general process of actually putting it in recovery mode and how to remove that passcode is always going to be the same. You do have to put it in recovery mode, just with different variations on the buttons you have to press. And then once you have the device in recovery mode, the process is going to be exactly the same for every single device ever since the invention of the iPhone. So nothing changes. You do have to restore it. You do have to do the same exact process in iTunes, and that's what I'm going to show you now. We're going to go through the process in iTunes. I'll show you what we need to do, where we need to go, what you need to do, so that way you can get the device restored and you can get back into it. And like I mentioned before, I will cover backups and restoring backups in a later video. So as of right now, let's go ahead and jump into iTunes and see what's happening there. Alright guys, so like I told you, iTunes will recognize the device. It's telling you right here, there is a problem with the iPod Touch that requires it to be updated or restored. So a lot of people actually try to do the update option, and that's fine for troubleshooting purposes. You can force the update this way, but again, for removing that passcode, for actually getting rid of the passcode, you do have to go through the restore process. So once you click restore, it'll show you that message asking you if you want to restore an update, and yes, we're sure. It's going to show you the latest updates for your iOS version. In this case, it's iOS 9.3.5, which is kind of ancient, but that's the only one, that's the latest one this iPod can run. So let's go ahead and click next. Some terms and conditions and nobody reads, so agree to those. And the process has begun. So in this case, a lot of people get stuck on this specific section. So just to summarize it, once you click restore and update and you agree to those terms, the software will start downloading. Once you put the device in recovery mode, it will stay in recovery mode for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, meaning 15 minutes and 1 second, it will restart and it will take you back to the iPod is disabled screen or device is disabled screen. A lot of people get confused by it. They think that the process failed in iTunes and you have some kind of issue and it's not going to go forward. But what it means is that the device was simply kicked out of recovery mode, and that is completely normal. That's actually expected. So if the download process takes more than 15 minutes, you do have to put the device back in recovery mode, go back to iTunes and actually click on restore again and go through the same process. To verify how long the update will take, you can go ahead and click on here, this little arrow pointing down, aka the download button, and it's showing us right here. So right now the update will take about 8 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes. So it does vary depending on your Wi-Fi connection. If you're using a good Wi-Fi, it might take less time. If you're using Wi-Fi network that's being used by a lot of people. It might take, longer. But basically, this is what we have to do. We do have to wait for this software to download. And after it downloads, if the device is still in recovery mode, it will start installing it automatically. If the device was kicked out of recovery, like I mentioned before, you do have to put it in recovery again and click on restore a second time to actually install the software. It's not going to download it a second time. It's already on the computer. So at that point, it would start installing it. So this is a really good time to go to the kitchen, like get, some coffee, get dinner, get lunch, pretty much, do something. Just don't sit in front of your computer waiting for it, because it will take some time. So all we have to do is, sit and wait. Just go do something, enjoy, play some video games, whatever you like to do in your free time. And let's give this some time and see what happens next. So, full disclaimer here, you will see the Apple logo and a progress bar on the screen of the device a couple of times. It's actually running through some processes, so it will verify the download, it will actually install the download, and then it will verify the install. So it will take some time. You will see a couple of progress bars, Apple logos, and that kind of thing. The device will restart at least once during the process, depending on the kind of device. It could be twice. So all you have to do, like I said before, is just sit and wait. Just leave the device connected to the computer, really important, and wait for iTunes to do its thing. After all of this is done, we will be taken back to the setup assistant, and I'll show you once we get there what we need to do to actually get past activation lock and be able to set up the device again. Alright, and the restore is complete. This is the setup assistant, aka the hello screen. So a lot of people get confused. They think that something broke. They're like, oh, I don't want to use that language. Well, you don't have to. It's just showing you different languages, just welcoming you to iOS. So all you have to do on most devices is press the home, actually slide on the screen on this one. So you either press the home button or slide on the screen. Then you choose your language, you choose your country, and it will ask you to put in a Wi-Fi. So in the Wi-Fi, it will start verifying the information. And in this case, like I told you, it did put us in activation lock. It will give you a very vague hint of what the Apple ID that was used is. It will show you the first letter and then some dots and the domain for the email. Now the dots do not correspond to the amount of letters used. So if you see 5 dots, it doesn't mean that the email was 1 letter and then 5 other characters. It's made that way for security purposes, so people don't actually try to guess your Apple ID or password. So let me go ahead and put my information in. And after you put in your Apple ID, you can choose if you want to use location services. Pretty much go through the setup process for the device. Disable, okay. It will ask you to create a passcode, so you can create a new one, or you can choose other options. And don't use passcode, so that way you can just skip it altogether and avoid this problem in the future, which is not recommended, but I mean, it might work in your case. Here is where you would restore your iCloud backup. If you have one, you do have to remember your Apple ID and password. Same thing with the iTunes backup. If you have one in iTunes, you do have to connect it to your computer, and you can restore it from there. Keep in mind that if you don't have a backup from before, your data is lost forever. So there's no way to go around this. So iTunes backups and iCloud backups have to be created often, so they actually serve their purpose. In this case, we'll just go ahead and set up the iPod Touch as new. It will ask you to sign in to the Apple ID again. So let me do that real quick. After you enter your Apple ID and password, as well as your 2-factor authentication code if you have one, you will see some more terms and conditions that no one reads. So let's go ahead and click agree. And we are waiting for the Apple ID to be configured. So let's just give it a moment to complete that. All right. And sometimes it will ask you to enter the passcode to your other devices to make sure that it's you trying to access the account. This happens when you have 2-factor authentication turned on. So in this case, I do know the passcode to my phone, so that's fine. So I'll just go ahead and put it in. And after you put it in, it will attempt to verify the information. Really important for those of you with 2-factor authentication, there are things that will get you locked out of the account. I will be covering that in a later video. But as of now, if you do know the passcode to the device, all you had to do is put it in and wait for the process to complete. Basically, it's trying to verify the account. You do have the option of using something else, like it gives you like a SMS code or some other authentication, but in most cases when you try that option, it will actually lock you out of the account and it will put you in account recovery. So you do want to avoid that. Try to keep your passwords handy. Same thing with passcodes. Right now it seems like we went back to the setup assistant, so it's asking us to turn on Siri, so we don't want to do that, so turn on later. We don't really have to send anything to developers, and this is what we need. Get started. And after you hit that, you're back into your device, no passcode. If you had restored a backup, then your information would have been here. For iCloud backups, they do take a little bit longer to complete in the background. For iTunes backups, they pretty much install everything right then and there. So they do take about 20 minutes or so on average. It could be more, it could be less. iCloud backups will allow you to get into the phone in like 2 minutes. After they allow you to go in, they will continue working in the background. So all in all, the backup restore process for iCloud could take a few hours since it works exclusively through Wi-Fi. So the slower the connection, the slower the restore. So keep that in mind if you chose to restore a backup. But all in all, that's it. You're back into your device. You're able to set up everything again. And hopefully this helped you guys understand the process on how to restore an iPod or iPhone or iPad to be able to remove the passcode and get back. Alright guys, and that's pretty much it. That's how you get back into your device when it has a passcode lock. So make sure that you keep those passcodes handy, write them down somewhere. Same thing with your Apple ID password. Make sure that you have it because you will need it at some point. It's not an everyday kind of thing, but when things do go wrong and you do have to use it, there's very little option left besides actually using those passcodes or passwords. I will be covering password resets in a later video because that's another huge subject, something that I have to help people with almost every single day. So I will be covering that. As far as passcodes, this is pretty much the overall process for every single device. So, keep that handy. I will be dropping the article links down in the description again, just so you have them. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, make sure to put them in the comment section below. Go ahead and click that like button. If this video worked out for you and it's something that interests you or you think it might help somebody else, make sure to click that subscribe button, click on the bell so you never miss a new video. And again, if you have any requests, if there's anything you want to know specifically, just go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'll make a video for you and I'll help you guys out. So until next time, I'll see you around.